President Obama gave the commencement speech for the Coast Guard Academy, and in it, he made the point that climate change is a major threat to our national security, comparing the risk and the threats that climate change has on our society. He believes that it's as serious as the Boko Haram terrorists and the Middle East war. It is important to recognize the risks as climate change is indisputable if we don't make the necessary changes to ensure a sustainable, clean energy environment for our nation. Currently, states within the nation are dividing on the issue. Margaret, right now there's a lot going on with basically wondering if this is a national security, and it is. There's a lot of things that we have to look at when you talk about the melting ice caps, when you talk about drought, food depletion, people migration. This becomes a security. When they said also that because of the ice melting, the water is actually bringing sonar waves underneath, which makes it where it does become a militant because they have to protect the people when these climate changes happen. And this is at the top of that priority. I believe I actually agree with the president on this.
You know, I'll be honest with you, there are only a few things that he and I do agree on. I'm with you on that. I'm not sure if it's a military issue per se. It certainly is a national security issue. I agree with your point. You know, it does affect our life, our way of life, our crops, everything we eat, everything that we do. You know, there's several organizations out there that are spending tens of millions of dollars every year denying climate change, you know, trying to remove words and phrases. You know, Americans for Prosperity is one major group. The Koch brothers are another. The fossil fuel lobby. You know, you have all of these organizations that are trying so hard to say that this doesn't exist. And hopefully people will wake up to this and understand that it does exist and that they can control it, that their behavior matters. And hopefully that's what he did by giving this speech.
But what's interesting too is I think that he brought this speech up because there is a divided line going on. Right now, in Wisconsin, they're actually banning the words climate change, global warming, and actually sustainability. You're not allowed to say this. In Florida, they actually made a joke about it by saying atmospheric reemployment. I mean, this is not when you're banning words as of sustainability, I mean, yes, global warming is one thing to debate and climate change, but when sustainability, what are we looking for? A dystopia type of life? I mean, it begs the question, and also freedom of speech. I mean, who's to say as our government officials and our politicians for their own agenda are telling us we can't even talk about it now?
And that word sustainable development, those two words, you know, it really takes into account future generations. That's what that's all about. But regarding removing these words and these groups that are trying to do it, they're playing on fears that the industry and American jobs are at stake if we respect the fact that climate change is happening. You know, they're predicating that lie, and they're doing it ad nauseum. Also, you know, they're really tapping into a culture where we obsessively consume oil like it's going out of style, and we're not really addressing, you know, the selfishness of our own culture and not really taking it into account what we're doing to the planet.
Well, that also brings up the Sierra Club. They are basically wanting to have the world in the next 3 to 5 years to the next decade getting off of coal, which is our dirtiest fossil fuel, and getting to, which is actually cheaper, wind and solar. And this is where the states are now, some of the states like that are involved in it is Iowa, Missouri, and California, and a dozen other states are going to be involved. But unfortunately, we still have Ohio and Kansas and Florida who are not on board. So this is becoming where people are going, look, in the next 10 years, we've got issues. We've got to make things better for our future. There is the things out there for the future that is solar and wind that can make a better environment. So let's get on board. Let's change our percentage of getting off of fossil fuels. But a lot of these politicians, they say there's an agenda to where they're not wanting to get off of fossil fuels because of their own political, maybe money behind it. And that's where this has become almost like a climate change war, I would say, between our states and our nation, between government officials.
I agree with you. You know, President Obama is to be commended for doing this, you know, addressing this major issue that is life-threatening to all of us. And let's just hope that he makes some headway with it, and that people start listening that this is actually a real issue and that it absolutely affects them directly.
Yeah, Michael Bloomberg also, he put $50 million towards the Sierra Club, and Doug LaFollette, which is the Secretary of State of Wisconsin, he was very adamant about making these changes. We'd like to hear your comments below on what you think about President saying climate control is a national security threat. And your comments below, please. And thank you for watching the LIP TV too. And don't forget to subscribe.